My name is Lisa, and if you asked me a few years ago to describe my life, I would have said it was a constant battle for love and respect. I'm 25 now and a single mother to a beautiful little girl, Emma. But before Emma came into my life, I was just a forgotten daughter in a family that only had room for one favorite, my stepsister, Hazel. Growing up, I lived with my father, John, and my stepmother, Karen. When Karen married my dad, she brought Hazel with her, and from the moment she stepped into our lives, it was like I vanished. Hazel was the perfect little princess, as Karen called her, and my father agreed. I was the one who did the chores, the errands, the cleaning, anything they didn't want Hazel to do. "You're older, Lisa. Be responsible," they'd say, while Hazel got away with everything. I remember one Christmas when I was 16. I'd saved up for months to buy a dress I loved, but when the gifts were handed out, Hazel got the dress instead. "It looked better on her," Karen said casually, as if my feelings didn't matter. My dad didn't even look at me. That was just how it was. Hazel deserved the best, and I deserved whatever was left. By the time I turned 20, I thought I'd grown numb to it. But then Emma came along. Becoming a mother changed everything for me. I started seeing how toxic my family was, not just to me, but to the environment I was raising my daughter in. I was determined to shield Emma from the favoritism and cruelty I'd endured, even if it meant making hard decisions. Little did I know, the hardest decision would be forced on me. Hazel wasn't just spoiled. She was manipulative. And one day, she took things too far. I'll never forget the day everything fell apart. Emma was 2 years old at the time, just starting to speak in full sentences and bursting with the kind of energy only a toddler could have. We were living in my father's house, but it didn't feel like a home. I've been walking on eggshells for years, trying to keep my head down and avoid giving Karen or Hazel any excuse to turn their full wrath on me, or worse, on my daughter. That day, I came home from work exhausted, juggling grocery bags in one hand and holding Emma's tiny hand in the other. She was babbling about a bird she'd seen on the way home, and I was nodding along, trying to focus on her sweet little voice instead of the dread that always crept up on me whenever I walked through that front door. As soon as I stepped inside, I knew something was wrong. The air felt different, tense, as if the house itself was holding its breath. Emma tugged on my hand, wanting to go to her room, so I made my way upstairs, hoping whatever chaos was brewing wasn't aimed at me. But when I opened the door to our room, I froze. The walls, which I painted a soft lavender because Emma loved the color, were now an obnoxious shade of pink. Her drawings, the ones she proudly taped to the wall, were gone. The bed was stripped bare, and her favorite stuffed animal was nowhere to be seen. I dropped the grocery bags and spun around, my heart racing. That's when Hazel appeared in the doorway, arms crossed, smirking like she just won some twisted game. "Do you like it?" she asked, her voice dripping with mock innocence. The room was such a mess. I thought I'd help you out by redecorating. Honestly, Lisa, it looked like a storage closet in here. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Where's Emma's stuff?" I demanded, my voice shaking. "Oh, that old junk." I tossed it. It was cluttering up the space. I felt like the floor had been ripped out from under me. My daughter's toys, her drawings, the little pieces of her world that made her feel safe and loved, gone, just like that. I stepped closer, trying to stay calm for Emma's sake, but the fury bubbling inside me was too much to contain. "You had no right," I said through gritted teeth. Hazel rolled her eyes. "Oh, spare me the lecture. It's not like you ever kept the room clean anyway. Honestly, you should be thanking me. I've turned this dump into something halfway decent." That's when I saw it. At the corner of my eye, near the trash can, was a crumpled pile of paper. My stomach dropped as I recognized it. The documents I'd been working on for months, important paperwork for a job application I desperately needed to give Emma a better life. I rushed over, snatched the papers up, and saw they were ruined, stained, torn, completely unsalvageable. "You threw these out?" I asked, my voice rising. "Relax," Hazel said, laughing. "You always act like everything's such a big deal. It's not like you were going to get that job anyway." And that was it. Something inside me snapped. Before I even realized what I was doing, my hand flew up and I slapped her. The sound echoed through the room, and for a brief moment, Hazel's smug expression was replaced with shock. But that moment didn't last. She let out a dramatic scream, clutching her cheek as if I'd just struck her with a hammer. Within seconds, Karen and my father came storming in. What is going on here? Karen demanded, her eyes darting between Hazel and me. Hazel, ever the actress, burst into tears. She hit me, Mom. All I was trying to do was help her, and she attacked me. I turned to my dad, desperate for him to see the truth. She destroyed Emma's things. She threw out my papers, my chance to get us out of here. She's been tormenting me for years, and I've had enough. But my father didn't even look at me. His focus was entirely on Hazel, who was now sobbing into Karen's arms. You've gone too far, Lisa, he said, his voice cold. You're selfish, jealous, and hateful. I've tried to be patient with you, but this is unforgivable. Unforgivable. I repeated, my voice breaking. She ruined everything, and you're defending her. Karen stepped forward, her face twisted with fury. How dare you lay a hand on my daughter? You've always hated her, and now you've shown your true colors. If you can't respect this family, you have no place here. And then she said the words that would haunt me for years. Get out of this house, and don't you dare come back. I looked at my father, hoping, praying that he would stand up for me, for Emma, for the truth. But he just stood there, silent, as Karen and Hazel glared at me like I was the enemy. With tears streaming down my face, I picked up Emma and walked out of that house, leaving behind the only family I'd ever known. I didn't look back, not even when Emma asked me, "Why are we leaving, Mommy?" All I could do was hold her close and promise her that no matter what, we would build a better life, one where she would never feel as unwanted as I had. The years after I walked out of that house were some of the hardest of my life, but they were also the most transformative. I had nothing but Emma in my arms, a small bag of clothes, and the crushing weight of rejection on my shoulders. At first, I stayed on a friend's couch, scraping by with a part-time job while trying to find something stable. Every night, I would lie awake, replaying my father's words in my head. You're selfish, jealous, hateful. It took everything in me to push through the pain and focus on building a better future for Emma. 3 years passed, and while life wasn't easy, we'd managed to carve out a little world of our own. I found a steady job, rented a small but cozy apartment, and surrounded myself with people who actually cared about us. Emma was thriving, her laughter filling every corner of our home. I thought I'd finally left the past behind me. But then one evening, I got a phone call that brought it all rushing back. It was my father. "Liza, it's me," he began, his voice shaking. I froze, the phone pressed against my ear as a mix of anger and anxiety flooded through me. I hadn't heard from him since the day I left, and now he was calling out of the blue. "What do you want?" I asked, my tone sharper than I intended. I need your help," he stammered. "Please, Lisa. I made a mistake. I was wrong. You were right about Hazel, about everything. She and Karen, they've ruined everything. Hazel's reckless spending has left us broke, and Karen sided with her completely. They've kicked me out of the house." For a moment, I couldn't speak. The man who had stood by while I was thrown out was now coming to me, begging for help. It was almost laughable. "I don't know what to do," he continued, his voice cracking. "You're the only one who can help me. Please, Lisa, I'm sorry. I miss you and Emma. I made a terrible mistake. I need you." His words felt like a dagger twisting in an old wound. Part of me wanted to scream at him, to unleash all the pain and anger I carried for years. But another part of me, smaller, quieter, remembered the little girl who had once idolized her father, who had longed for his love and approval. I took a deep breath, my hand gripping the phone so tightly it hurt. "You need my help," I said, my voice calm but cold. "Where were you when I needed yours? When Karen and Hazel threw me out with my 2-year-old daughter, you stood there and said nothing. You let them tear my life apart, and now you expect me to save yours." "Liza, please," he pleaded. "I know I failed you, but I'm desperate. I've lost everything. Hazel, she's destroyed our family. You were right about her, and I didn't see it until it was too late." The anger I kept buried for so long boiled to the surface. "Too late? Too late to fix what you broke? Do you have any idea what I went through after you turned your back on me? Do you even care about the nights I cried myself to sleep, wondering why my own father didn't love me enough to stand up for me?" There was silence on the other end of the line, and for a moment, I thought he might have hung up. But then he spoke again, his voice barely above a whisper. "You're right. I don't deserve your forgiveness. But please, Lisa, if there's any part of you that still cares, I'm begging you to help me." I closed my eyes, taking in the weight of his words. There was a time when I would have jumped at the chance to prove my worth to him, to finally be the daughter he could be proud of. But that time had passed. I wasn't that desperate, broken girl anymore. "I'm sorry, Dad," I said, my voice steady. "But I'm done setting myself on fire to keep you warm. You made your choice when you sided with them. Now you can live with it. Don't call me again." Before he could respond, I hung up the phone, my hands trembling. Emma walked into the room, her big brown eyes full of curiosity. "Who was that, Mommy?" she asked. "Just someone from the past," I said, pulling her into my arms. "But it doesn't matter now. All that matters is us." And for the first time in years, I truly believed it. As I sat on the couch that night, with Emma curled up beside me watching her favorite cartoon, I felt an overwhelming sense of peace. For so long, I had been tied down by the weight of my family's rejection, by the lingering hope that one day they'd see me, love me, and treat me the way I deserved. But that phone call from my father had closed the final chapter of that painful story. I looked at Emma, her tiny face lit up by the glow of the TV, and realized just how far we had come. 3 years ago, I had walked out of that house with nothing but her in my arms and a heart full of hurt. Now I had a stable job, a home that was ours, and friends who felt more like family than my blood ever had. Most importantly, I had Emma, who reminded me every single day what unconditional love truly meant. The decision to turn my father away wasn't an easy one, but it was necessary. For too long, I had let their treatment of me define my worth. That night, I chose to value myself instead. I chose to protect the life I had built for Emma and me, free from their toxicity. In the weeks that followed, I found myself smiling more, laughing more, living more. I started taking Emma to the park every weekend, where she made friends and I reconnected with a piece of my own childhood joy. I took up painting, something I hadn't done since I was a teenager. I even signed up for a local art class, where I met people who shared my passion and encouraged me to keep creating. One evening, as Emma proudly showed me the macaroni necklace she'd made at preschool, I realized just how full my life had become. Not with material things or the approval of others, but with moments that truly mattered, with love, laughter, and a future I was shaping on my own terms. I thought about my father, Karen, and Hazel occasionally, but the memories didn't sting the way they used to. I didn't feel bitterness or regret, just a quiet sense of closure. They had made their choices, and I had made mine. For the first time in my life, I felt free. Free from their judgment, free from their control, and free to be the person I was always meant to be. I wasn't just surviving anymore, I was thriving. That night, as I tucked Emma into bed, she looked up at me with those big, innocent eyes and said, "I love you, Mommy. You're the best." Tears welled up in my eyes as I kissed her forehead. "I love you too, sweetheart, more than anything in the world." And as I closed her bedroom door and stepped into the quiet of my own space, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Pride. Pride in the woman I had become, the mother I was, and the life I was creating. I didn't need their house, their approval, or their apologies. I had everything I needed right here, in this little home filled with love and hope. And for that, I was endlessly grateful.